Hello, everybody, and greetings from Berlin in Germany. My name is Burkhard Pauli, and together with my colleague Varun, we will talking today about the core components for email and forms. So this presentation is divided into two parts. The first part is about the email core components, and in the second part, Varun will give you an introduction about the core components for forms. So let's look at the menu for today for the email core components. First, I will give you a short motivation and target why we created this components in AEM. Then I will give you a brief overview of the components. So what contains actually the core components for email. And then we dive into the technology and the core services which are provided with this component framework. And then we have a little bit a deeper look into the segmentation experience we provide with the core components. And this will be also part of the demo. After my demo, I will then hand over to Varun. We'll then go ahead with the form core component. So why did we create this email core components? First, of course, email clients today are still lacking of all the fancy browser support we have for CSS and email HTML markup needs to be specific so that we can have an cross aligned view of all emails for different clients. So this is why we need this special components, and as we later see also in this core components, we're still working a lot with tables, which is still state of the art for email clients, for a lot of email clients. Then, of course, we want to provide the same author experience as for the regular core components we already have in AEM. This includes also the latest features like experience fragment, content fragments, and also using the editable template feature. And we also want to replace the outdated foundation newsletter components, which are still based on JSPs, and it's not really easy to maintain for us because a lot of business logic is really embedded into the JSPs. They are quite old, I think almost 50 years. And we want to provide a new feature regarding the segmentation. And that's why we created a dedicated segmentation component inside of this framework. So how did we achieve this? We built it on top of the WCM core component. So if you are already familiar with the WCM core components, I think there's a very low entry barrier for you to also use the email core components because you will see a lot of same patterns, and also the components itself, we're using a lot of the WCM core components. And we still want to have the seamless integration into the Adobe campaign. And this is done by reusing the MCM package we already used for the old foundation newsletter components. So it's quite proven, this integration, and it's very stable. We did it. This is an open source project. We had already some experience from the WCM core components with an open source project. So we think this is the best approach to get this out, and so you can really get in touch with us. This is this public GitHub page. Great incidents. Also, of course, contributions are welcome. So if you think there's a lack of feature or you find a bug, we are happy to review your pull request. So what contains the email core components? It contains basically a set of 10 components, which are divided into 3 different main areas. The first area is the template component, which is only a basic page component. The basic page component is yeah, mostly like the WCM core components with some special additions for which you need for emails. Of course, you need to specify a subject, or you also need to specify maybe a pre-header which is displayed in email clients before you open the email. So this features contains the page component. Then we have the basic page authoring components. This is most these are most of the components where the authors are really working with. So most of the components are really most the same as the WCM core components, but yeah, they have a special markup rendering. So most of this page authoring components contains table output, so that you really can make sure that all email clients have the same experience. And the last area are the container components. For this container components, we have a special container, which is a replacement of the responsive grid, or also the replacement of the container component of the WCM core component, which also table-based, and it comes with a predefined set of columns, so that you can easily set up multi-column layouts for your emails. And then we have this segmentation component, which I will also then go a little bit deeper into in one of the next slides in the follow-up demo. So from the technology point of view, as I already mentioned, you really see a lot of the things you might already know of the WCM core components. One of the most important pattern we use also for the email components are the versioning. So all components are versioned. So this gives you the guarantee if you include it into your project and the project gets updated, we don't break anything. So all our changes are backward compatible, or we create a new version of a component, and then you can really have to manually update to this new version. Then the HDL is, as I already mentioned, specific to email clients with a lot of table layout, but the HDL are reusing most of the WCM core Sling models. So if you have a look to the HDL files, you see all these use objects, which are very similar to the one we have already in the WCM core components. In addition to this, things we already know from the WCM core components, we integrated the personalization plugin from Adobe Campaign. So you can easily input Adobe Campaign metadata into text fields like subject or in text areas, but I will demonstrate this later also. And then we also provide some email-specific core services, but this will be covered in the next slide. So which core services do we provide? We have a set of services which are directly related to the CSS styles, which you might integrate into your template. Because of the lack of support of the most of the email clients to load external CSS files, we have to make sure that this CSS is inlined into the HTML document. And the main responsibility of this is the CSS style inliner, which takes this external resources in your HTML file and embed the styles into your HTML file. Then we have the HTML inliner. This is the service which gives you total control what CSS rule sets might be extracted and then applied as a dedicated HTML attribute. For example, if you look at the image if you specify the width in the CSS rules and you configure the HTML inliner to extract this rule from your CSS, it can then be passed directly to the image element as this attribute. Then we have the email link transformer. It's a common way for all the components to rewrite the links you have in your email template. It reuses the link manager from WCM core components. So if you worked already with this link manager, yeah, it's basically the same. And last but not least, we have the web div remover. As you might know, in your HTML, in AAM, you have a lot of wrapper divs which are added by the or added because of the editor. And this sometimes leads to unexpected behavior in your email clients, and the wrapper div remover can be configured to remove this unnecessary or unused wrapper divs so that the email clients can render the HTML output correctly. Let's have a little bit deeper look into the process, what the style inliner service really does. So it fetches the HTML document and then it's get passed by JSoup. And the JSoup parser then extracted the CSS styles, which are or which might contain by the HTML document as a external reference. And this style extractor then takes the CSS and passes to the style tokenizer. The style tokenizer is responsible for taking the CSS and having it extracted with the CSS rule sets and the combined CSS selectors. And after you have the style tokens, you can then merge it with the style merger. The style merger, for example, also takes already existing style attributes and then merges it together with the external styles which you have defined in your client library. And in the next process, the HTML attribute are added by the HTML attribute inliner. So this is the service I mentioned earlier where you can extract CSS rules and apply them to the HTML elements directly as attribute. After that, the wrapper div remover will remove all the unnecessary div elements. And in the last process, all non-inlineable CSS rules getting applied to a dedicated style tag in the header of the HTML document. So for example, media queries, you can't apply them to the style attribute of the HTML element directly. This are extracted and then combined into this header element. So for segmentation, we created a new component, a dedicated component, which is basically based on the WCM tab component. So it gives the author the experience as you would create a tab component with the WCM core components, but with the specialty that you can define conditions. And these conditions can be defined in the content policy of the segmentation component. So as you see here in the screenshot on the right, here we have an example with two predefined conditions, one for female and one for male, and this is inside of your content policy. And in the next screenshot, you see that this predefined conditions can then be selected by the author when creating this segmentation items. And an author can also define a custom condition on the fly. So it doesn't need to be a condition which is predefined. So it is a very flexible approach to create special segment then. Okay, now it's time for a short demo. I will switch over here to my sandbox environment. And so you see here already an email template, which is based on the email core components. It's a basic page with two teasers, and we also have here the layout container. First, I would like to show you the special page properties, which we added for this core component page. There's a dedicated tab email. Here you can define a subject of your email, and as I mentioned earlier, you also have the possibility with this campaign plugin to select campaign dedicated markup. So for example, if you want to include the first name of the recipient into the subject, you can select this here and you get the placeholder of this recipient into your subject. You also can define here the pre-header, which is rendered by the email clients upfront before users open the email. And you can also auto-generate plain text output. So if I click here on the button, it takes the HTML content and then extracts all the text content and put it here into the plain text field, which is then delivered to customers who don't want to receive any HTML markup. So I will close this session. And for this teaser, for example, you can also see that I have placed here a placeholder inside of the text. This is also done by this campaign integration plugin. You can also define this placeholders into the call to action actions of your campaign. And yeah, maybe we can also have a switch look to the template of this page. Yeah, we have here this two-column layout with a new container. It's based on tables and it comes with a predefined set of columns which you can choose from. So if you switch now to the HTML of this page, you can still see here this external client library, which is basic AEM client library, which is put here in the header. So it's nothing special about email delivery. And you also see here the table layout. But now, when Adobe Campaign fetches this markup, the style inliner is called. And for this, I will switch here over to my campaign client. So this is the same page. And if I here switch to the source code, you already see that the external style is gone. So it's got removed by the style inliner service. Instead, you have now here this inline styles. And this inline style contain only media queries. And the other styles I can quickly show here in my IDE, which I applied to this client library, are getting applied directly to the HTML elements, so that it's getting rendered correctly for each email client. And one special thing I want to demo in the last step is the style inliner service. For this, we created an OCI configuration, and there you can also configure this HTML inliner. So, for example, we have currently a configuration for an image element and the TR element. So the TR element is fetching the vertical align from the CSS and outputs it as a V align attribute to the markup. So I have here in my CSS this vertical align rule set, and as you can see here now in the final markup of your email template, here this V align attribute is added from the CSS markup. So this is a very flexible approach for you to really address every email client specific use case. So with that, I will close my demo and hand over to my colleague, Varun. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Wakha, for the great demo. So, hi everyone. Good morning or good evening. So, my name is Varun Dua, and I am a senior developer in AEM Forms. I have been, I'm here to talk about adaptive form core components in AEM and how they can be used to create digital experiences in site pages. So, here's a brief agenda of my talk. So, why we have developed core components, I'll be talking about the why and the features that they provide to the end users or the customers and authors. And then I'll be giving a brief overview of what different type of core components we have. And then through a set of recorded videos as well as some live uh, customizations, I'll be doing a demo of how core components can be adaptive form core components can be used to author a form in a site page. And then I'll be talking about the using the next generation composable services, how the authoring of forms may look like. So why we have developed core components? So in the past, we have received feedback from the customers that the experience of developing or authoring forms is different than sites. So technically, they both are the same. They use the same jargon. So taking into that feedback, we have developed these core components to provide consistent experience for developers and authors. So using the foundation principles of site core components, which I think Warkard has also mentioned during his slides. Uh, we have created these components. So for styling, they have the BEM markup. They use the BEM markup so that your components can be themable. Uh, to prevent upgrades, the versioning system has been introduced, similar to what exactly the way site core components are used. And since they are all the adaptive form core components are also open source, they're easy to play around. And all the other customizations patterns that site core component supports, adaptive form core component support the same set as well. For authors, they have a consistent experience. They don't, so if they have to create a form, they don't need to go to multiple UIs. From within a site page, they can create a form. They can drag and drop those components, given that those components are enabled in the template editor, just like the way with every other component. Then these components can be used in SPA editor so that you can develop your remote SPA applications. And with the time warp feature, you can get the versioning of forms as well when you are creating those form using form components in the site page. And then earlier we had a limitation that there can only be a single adaptive form in a page, but with these core components, you can have multiple forms in a page as well. These core components, since also provide a JSON representation, and the JSON representation of adaptive form core components adheres to the adaptive form headless specifications, which allows them to be delivered or rendered anywhere on any channel. Maybe it's a WhatsApp or a native mobile application. So how authoring using core components looks like, and what are the different core components we have. So on the top of it, we have the most important component is form container. So basically, if you are aware of HTML, it is equivalent to the form tag in a page, in an HTML page. So to create any form, you have to insert that form component, and all the form fields that have to be submitted should lie under or should be present inside this container component. Then to group your fields visually or logically, we have a set of layout components, wizard, tabs on top, panels, and we are adding more as well. You can also use side components like the tabs on left, or you have accordion, uh, and to get the visual look and feel, and you can drag and drop form components in those layout components as well. And we support the HTML5 supported, all the HTML5 supported fields, including number, email, text, telephone, etc. So we'll be adding more fields as and when requirements come, or whenever, or even since they are open source, we uh, can take people requests or contributions from the community. So if you have a requirement that is not fulfilled by these core components, you're free to uh, contribute, and once those gets approved, those will be available to the wider community. And in existing adaptive forms editor, you had a functionality to add business rules to the forms. The same functionalities is available when you are authoring a form in a site page as well. So let's see how we can author a form in a site page using core components. So for this particular uh, demo, I have taken the Weekend Adventures as a demo site. So basically, Weekend Adventures is a demo site created in AEM to explain or provide the different functionalities of AEM. So here we have now a use case where users can also sign up for the upcoming adventures, and the data will then get submitted to let's say an Excel sheet, and an email will be sent to the person who has submitted the form. So how will this work? Yeah. So before starting with the authoring, one has to install these core components using the arch type. So you have to modify your pipeline code, and you have to add these core components dependencies. So this will all be a part of the documentation that will be present at the end of the slides as well. So you have to add these uh, dependencies in your POM file and your project's POM file, and you have to deploy the pipeline or run the pipeline again. So once that is done, your core components will be available to use in any site page you have. So now this is the page that we want to talk about. So for example, a customer wants to add a form component or a form in the site page. First, they'll have to, so we can see that the component is not available. The reason is the template is, you have to enable those components in your existing templates. Since this is an existing site, we have to do that. But if you create a new uh, site from an arch type, these will have a template where these components will already be enabled. So, but that's very simple. You can get to the template editor, and you can select, you can see these adaptive form components, and you can select the group. Once that is done, you can go back to your site page, and then you can uh, see those components visible. So now first, as a first step, you have to include the container component, and after that you can drag draw whatever components you want. So to save everyone's time, I have recorded this part of the uh, video, but after that we'll be doing a live session where we can see how we can make modifications to these form in the editor. Yeah. So basically you can see that you can add date components, you can specify validations to it. For example, if you want to have a minimum and maximum constraints in the form, and this is something you can specify, and these are honored at the runtime as well. So this is the final form. After a couple of clicks, you can have this kind of component by this kind of form by adding the different components that are provided. I'll show you through the dialogues of a few more components uh, in the actual form. Sorry. So this is the actual form that we have, and you can see that we have these components. We have these components already added, and then you can see the different settings of different fields. You can have basic, you can have validations, for example, required. You can have a help content which you want to show to the end user to aid form filling, and these are accessible as well. You can specify what text should be read for by screen readers. You can choose title, or you can provide your own custom text as well. And uh, that was basically dragging and dropping the components. The other part is adding business logic to the form. So for example, uh, just as a use case, a sample use case, you want to show the form only when some user selects a date, because otherwise they are not interested. If they are interested, then only they'll select a date. So what you can do is you can actually go to the component, the panel component, and then you can uh, click on this hammer icon which says edit rules. And once you click on that edit rules, you can see I've already added the rule, but I can show you what the rule is. So basically you can select, show, hide, enable, disable, and multiple other things. So I want to show this panel when a user has entered or selected a start date. So that's the simple rule that I have created. So there are other rules in the form as well. For example, the contact method. So when you change and when you make it to phone, then you make the phone field as required and email field as conditional. So all these kind of rules you can create. I'll just open one to show how those look like. So you have these statements. So you can have multiple statements as well. So for example, if you want to change the value of a field depending upon certain criteria, you want to clear the value and you want to set certain other properties. For example, you want to show, hide, you want to change the label or a help text of a field, that also you can do. So I'll not be doing that. So once that is done, you can actually configure the form to be submitted to an Excel sheet. So you can actually select the form. Uh, so in the form container, there are a bunch of other properties. You can select a data model. You can select basically what kind of data model it has. It has a schema associated with or not. For this uh, demo, I'm not choosing any schema. Then you can have a submission. You can specify what should happen after submitting the form. Then you can specify basically other submit actions are also there, but for this demo we are invoking a Power Automate flow. And how that Power Automate flow, I'll show in a video how this Power Automate flow was configured, and then you can choose that Automate flow as well. So once that is done, the form is ready, and you can either publish the form or you can just in the authoring you can preview it. So if I'll just refresh it, and then let's see, yeah, you can see that only the date was until and unless a user selects a date, the other fields were not mandatory. There is a help text as well if someone is interested to look into that. And then you can choose a date, and once you choose the date, the values are pre-filled, and you can have a look at. So sorry, I have not specified any error messages, but those can be customized in the dialogues as well. So if I'll let me check. Yeah, I have filled everything. Now if I'll submit, uh, you can see it has, yeah, after it got submitted, it says thank you for submitting the form. Let's say if I have received an email. Yeah. So the data has been filled in, and let's see if I have received an email or not. Which email I had selected. Yeah, you can see that I had received an email with the data that I had filled in. So this was using Power Automate. So you can invoke a Power Automate workflow, which can actually uh, demonstrate what basically the powers of adaptive form. So all the backend integrations that are supported in previous adaptive form using previous adaptive form components, those are also supported now as well. Yeah. So and let's say if a user wants to customize, so we can have a look at it how the components get customized as well. So yeah. So yeah. So if you'll notice in the form, so if you'll notice in the form, there is a the email field was not mandatory. If you'll notice, if I fill in, email field was marked mandatory, but it is not showing as a star icon in next to it. So if let's say if we have to do that, how that can be done. So email, all the components have a BEM markup defined. And if you'll go to the component definition, you can look at that BEM markup. And once that, after looking at that BEM markup, you can uh, basically see that the BEM markup of this particular field was email input. And uh, so we have defined the stylings for all the other uh, components, like for example, text input, number input, date input, and other things. So here we can also specify the same common styling for the different components. It's just that we have to, since this uses the client lib, so the weekend project uses the client lib based approach for styling. Uh, so we'll just style the component, and now we will just need to install. It will, so I'll let's, it might take a little bit to build, so we'll just wait for it and go to the next part of the uh, presentation. So what is the future of authoring AEM forms would look like? So basically using the next generation composability for forms, we can create or build forms quickly in any source format, maybe it Excel or Google Sheet or maybe any other editor. And with the with the current the architecture allows you to deliver the content fast, leading to a quicker TTV and an exceptional end-to-end experiences. So it gives you a simplified developer experience. This is since there is nothing, no new tech know-how that is needed from the developer. You, the existing JavaScript knowledge that they have would be sufficient. You can have faster experiences. The sites that have been created using these services have a perfect lighthouse scores, and they can scale. So authoring can scale. Authoring, you have collaborative authoring since they leverage the existing tools like spreadsheets like Excel and Google Sheet or Word docs. So how we can create these forms using these composable services? So you can use a Google Sheet or a spreadsheet to define what kind of data you want to capture, and then you can directly submit the data into those spreadsheets. And since the spreadsheet formulas allow you to process sanitize data, and there is a bunch of functionalities that they provide to clean up your data as well, and identify or do any kind of processing. And also you can integrate that with Power Automate or Google Apps Script to create backend workflows, whether it was as simple as sending an email, or it's complex as submitting the data to a Salesforce endpoint. So everything would be possible using when you uh, submit these forms after to the backend to an Excel sheet. So let's see. There is a small demo of how these forms can be created using the composable services. So yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm really sorry for that. So this is a website that we have, which was created using a Word doc. So this is the Word doc. If you look into it, this is the Word doc that we have. And I already added the form. I'll just remove it. And there is an AEM sidekick that enables you to preview and publish the content directly from your Word doc. So once you preview it, you can have a look at the page. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there is. So there is some minor glitch. That's not previewing. It's showing the all content. Okay. So I'll showcase how this form was created. Since it's already working, I may not be able to show the exact authoring here. So for example, you have to create an Excel sheet, which I'm using SharePoint, but you can use Google Sheets as well. So you can create a table with these headers: name, label, value or default value, type, description, and other valid constraints like min, max, mandatory. And you can define the name of your fields and their type, for example, date, range, text, radio, etc. And this is how you can uh, define your form here. So this is once you have generated this Excel, you can just preview it. So that preview should uh, give you a link of the JSON that it generates. So a spreadsheet generates a JSON, which you can then finally use in your Franklin project. So how to create a form? You have to just add a table. So basically, in everything is in when you create your content using Word docs, everything is a table. You can consider these as components, and you can add the link of your spreadsheet, which contains the forms information. So once that is done, you can uh, preview, and now it's again the problem is the old content. Just so sometimes it takes a couple of more minutes when you are doing a demo. So it seems like SharePoint has some issues. Yeah, so now you can see the form has been created. You can fill in the data. And so basically you have this, you receive a thank you message. And if you look into the uh, incoming sheet, you can see date. So basically it takes around 1 minute to data for the data to appear in this Excel sheet, but we'll see that later on. So this form has now been this. So this is as easy as creating. So creating a form in using the next generation composability services is as easy as just authoring a Word document and an Excel sheet. So once that is done, so data, there is no backend integrations and anything that you need to learn about. If you have any Excel knowledge, you will see, you would be able to filter out the content. You can filter out which are basically the data that has been created erroneously by the end users. All those things you can just have a look at this Excel or the spread Google sheet and uh, identify the anomalies uh, or do your business processing as well. Yeah. So, okay. So there is some issue with the build, but once that build passes, it the theme that has been applied in the core components would appear there. So let me check what is the exact problem. So that is all for the next generation composability services. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. And this is the some links. So the core components, the list of core components and how to enable and using them. And if I forgot to mention, those components are available on 6.5 as well.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much, Prakard and Varun. It looks like all of the questions are currently answered in the chat, but if people have additional questions, they can drop them in the contextual thread and y'all can find them there. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you also.